Okay, so this is science, this is history, this is Seventh-day Adventists, this is churches. Now let's have a look what God says. In the beginning, God made man in his likeness. Now, whom did he make first? Man, male. He made Adam first. Okay? He did it in a very intimate way. He breathed into his nostrils. He became a living soul. And I'm just giving you a few facts here. It says, man was to bear God's image both in outward resemblance and in character. Try to imagine that. The first man, Adam, looked like God. That's amazing. Not only spiritually, but outwardly, he looked like the divine being. Also, it tells us that when Adam was created, he was more than twice tall as we today are. And just to let you know how that might have looked, I took a special effort to go to the art gallery. They had a big statue in there. We were with the family and with Vanessa. And I put myself next to a guy who was more than twice bigger than I was. And it's not a skinny stick taller than me. It becomes proportionally greater. So I'm 6.2. I'm not a small boy. But in comparison to that boy there, I look like a pygmy, like a small dwarf. So they were huge. They were massive. Eve, on the other hand, was created how? Do you remember? From the rib. From the rib of Adam. Why she wasn't created from the skull? Or why she wasn't created from the toenail? Well, because according to the spirit of prophecy, I know we all painfully well know all these verses, because she was not to control him, not to be trampled underfoot, but she was to be equal. That's why she was here next to his heart. So once they were created, they were lofty in stature and perfect in symmetry. Eve was somehow lesser in stature than Adam. She wasn't as tall as Adam. And they were both clothed in coverings of light. Beautiful. Beautiful thing. Now, how did they look? Were they black? Were they white? Were they yellow? Well, none of the above. They were, according to the spirit of prophecy, ruddy. So if I could describe them, probably they would be like the American natives, or the Eskimo, something, or even the Semitic people, the Jewish people, something which is a bit darker complexion, not as pale as the white people, not as dark as the dark people, not as yellow as the Asian people. But they both were very noble, very symmetrical, and very beautiful. Especially Eve was actually the most beautiful lady ever to live on this planet. So we've got today many beautiful girls, and even last Sunday we had a beautiful wedding with a beautiful girl. Every bride is beautiful, but Eve was the most beautiful lady ever. That was our grandma, actually. Unfortunately, the story doesn't continue in such a beautiful and rosy tone. What happened? Everything was perfect. Now, why are we ending up with all this mess in the world today? Both outside and inside the church. Well, because of something that is called sin. What is sin? Does somebody know what sin is? It's a choice. Very good, very good. That's what I was expecting to hear, and that's what I was thinking first. But I'm not asking you a definition of sin. I'm asking you not what happened, but what caused the first sin. What caused the first sin? What happened in that very prehistoric time when Eve and Adam were created in the beautiful Eden? Read there. The angels came with a special mission to Eve and Adam, telling Eve to beware of separating herself from her husband, but while occupying her pleasant work, he unconsciously wandered away. She went to the tree, she saw the beautiful fruit, She heard the words from the serpent. And she decided that she had sufficient wisdom and strength to resist. Now, what caused the first sin? What caused the misery that we are here today living in is the fact that, and everybody starts pointing fingers to Eve. No, not only. Eve was definitely to be blamed, definitely. But it wasn't Eve alone. It was because Eve disregarded man's leadership's role, and because Adam neglected that role as well. Where was Adam to let Eve go? The angels warned her, but they warned him as well. And as a result of that, we see the sentence. And to the woman, God said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception. In sorrow thou shalt bring forth children, and thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. God doesn't talk nonsense when he says desire. Didn't Eve desire Adam beforehand? Of course she did. They loved each other. They were like the hand and the glove. They were so close together. What is that desire? That was a new desire that happened in Eve's life. Desire here comes from swak, that is basically the word, hopefully I pronounce it right in Hebrew, which means to stretch out after, to long after something. She was to stretch out after or to long after something that she wasn't permitted to do before. And Adam had to rule from now on over her. The meaning of rule is to have dominion, to reign, to bear, to cause to have ruling power over somebody. And many times when the people say ruler, they imagine that picture there. You got the guy sitting on the throne and everybody is pushing him around. But there is a difference between a ruler, boss, and a leader. Guess who is who? Who is God and who is Satan? Satan is the boss, a cruel boss. Jesus is the leader. The leader is in front. He is pushing together and he is pulling together with everybody else. But I would have you know that the head of every man is Christ, and the head of the woman is the man, and the head of Christ is God. This is the pyramid of divinity. The leader doesn't stay on the top, he is on the bottom, pushing and supporting everybody else. And this is what rule means in male-female sense as well. How do I understand that? Wives, submit yourselves unto your own husbands as unto the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife, even as Christ is the head of the church, and he is the Savior of the body. Therefore, as the church is subject unto Christ, so let the wives be to their own husbands in everything. Head means kephale in Greek, and metamorphically it means anything supreme, chief, prominent, of person, master, Lord. And the word submit here means that you have to put yourself into subjection under somebody else. It's a very simple and very explicit language. In the creation, God made Eve equal to Adam. She was taken from the side. But sin had brought discord, and now their union could not be maintained and harmony preserved only by submission. Eve had been the first in transgression, and she had fallen into temptation. It was by her solicitation that Adam sinned, and she was now placed in subjection to her husband. God is not revengeful. He knows this is the right thing to do for the good of mankind. Now, I'm just wondering, was it really from sin, or was it even before sin? Well, let's have a look. Let's examine that. The Bible actually is telling us, let the woman learn in silence and in all subjection. But I suffer not a woman to teach, nor to usurp authority over the man, but to be in silence. Why is that? For Adam was first formed. That's the reason. That's Adam was formed before the sin, yeah? And Adam was not deceived, but the woman being deceived was in transgression. That is after sin situation. So the submission is not only because of sin, but because Adam was first. And secondly, Eve was first in sinning. So before and after sin. Is that so? Let's have a look quickly. Now, in Genesis we are told that the woman was made from man and not man from woman. That is a statement of superiority. Secondly, man was created, how? A bit taller than a woman. A height is usually, not in today's term, but in a perfect world term, a height signifies authority. You remember when the Israelites looked for a king, they saw somebody very handsome, a head and shoulder above everybody else. That was Saul. That was their sign. This guy is very kingly. How about Jesus? When Jesus is going to be among the saved in heaven, is he going to be a bit taller than everybody else, you reckon? Yes, he will. Why? Because this is who he is. He is the king. He is the figure of authority. So Adam was taller, and Eve was somehow less in stature than him. Now, another proof here, man named woman before the flood, and he called her Eve after the flood. Now, usually, who is naming whom? The children, the parents, or the parents, the children? Why? Because the parents have the authority over the children. And that's what Adam did too. And what happened after sin? Who actually first sinned? Eve. Yeah, that's correct. Whom did God ask an account from? Adam. Why? Because Adam was the one in charge. Now let's continue. What is the sphere of the man? Now we'll go to the nitty-gritties here. Husbands, love your wives, even as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for it. Now this breaks all the ideas that a man can be a despot in the family, rule their family with an iron fist. You've got to be as Christ. You tell me, how many times did you hurt Christ in your life? How many times? Maybe even today some of us did. How does Jesus do with us when we're deserving punishment? He takes us, he wipes our tears, he calms us. He doesn't save us from the trouble, but he says, keep going, I'll be with you. I'm ready to forgive you. That is who he is. Husbands, be like him. That's what it says here. The role of the husband is basically described with those three words. You have to love, you have to protect, and you have to provide. If you do one less of those, you're not a husband. You are not a husband. The meaning of a husband means house band, according to the spirit of prophecy. All members of the family center in the father. How can they center in the father if the father is repulsive? You have to be attractive. You have to be pleasant. You have to be fun. You have to be a provider. They have to know that you are the person upon whom this family is subsisting. You are the major building block of the family, apart from Christ. And I remember, and now I'm asking the question, why the church is starting ordaining women? Why the feminist movement started happening? Because men are to be blamed. Men are not men these days. Men have become everything else but men. And to prove that, I'll show you this. I remember the first picture, the black and white picture was the picture. That's not my grandfather, but my grandfather looked exactly like that. Exactly like that. Every time he was going to see me somewhere at the meeting or in the army, the guys were saying, who is that representative gentleman? Today, men look like that. What respect do you want? Why? I'm not blaming women to be wanting to be like men. Look at that. Shame. The father, that's one, actually I would say, the primarily reason why you should be a father and a husband. The father is in one sense the priest of the household, laying upon the altar of God the morning and the evening sacrifice. The father should be a priest of the household, as priest of the household, confess morning and evening to God the sins committed. And I understand not everybody has the luxury of being there in the morning, but you should be there at evening at least. You have to confess those sins. You have to ask for forgiveness. You have to be the person who shows to your family that you believe in God. Many times people are saying, why certain families are rooted in the church and they don't go out? Why certain families get out of the church and the children are lost? Don't look at the minister, look at the father of the family. The fathers have become spiritual wimps, spiritual scarecrows like that man we saw there on the picture. Now, how about the women? Let's go with that. God gave himself a companion. Why was woman created, and what is your role in life today? He provided a helpmeet, a helper, corresponding to him, one who was fitted to be his companion, and who could be one with him in love and sympathy. A few things. She had to be a helper, a companion, a lover, and a friend. One with him in thick and thin. There are no circumstances that can separate your affections from him. He might not be making as much money as Mr. Jones does, but you still be next to him. This is your role. That's why God created you for him. Now listen to what women are meant to be doing. We may safely say that the distinctive duties of a woman are more sacred, more holy than the priest of the family. Her work is in every respect as elevating and ennobling as any post of duty her husband may be called to fill, even if it is to be the chief magistrate of the nation. The king upon his throne has no higher work than has the mother. Her work is for time and for eternity. No other work can equal with hers in importance. Is that important? Is woman's work important? I would say it's actually much more important than men's. As I'm reading here, there's nothing that can basically equal with that. And what is that so important work that you have to be doing? The mother is queen of her household. She has in her power the molding of her children's characters, that they may be fitted for the higher immortal life. An angel could not ask for higher mission, for in doing this work, she is doing service for God. Yeah, but that's so humbling. You know, you're asking, what are you doing? I'm a housewife. I just do home duties. And we don't like it. It doesn't have a title. It doesn't earn money. But God likes it. God says this is the highest thing you could ever dream for. And Eve has been perfectly happy by her husband in her Eden's home, but like restless modern Eves, she was flattered with the hope of entering to a higher sphere than that which God has assigned her. What did God assign her? Be a helper, be a lover, be a supporter in thick and thin, bring up your children and mold them for heaven. That was the original position. In attempting to rise above her original position, she fell far below it. And now here, there are two things that I would like to address. The first is the shameful, and the second is the forbidden. The shameful is this. Many ladies accounted and well-educated, having graduated with honors at some institution of learning, are shamefully ignorant of the practical duties of life. They are destitute of the qualifications necessary for the proper regulation of the family. Now we've got the diplomas. We earn this much amount of money. But our house is a mess. We don't know how to cook a pleasant meal. Our children are thrown into nannies and daycare centers and private schools and all that rubbish. And they end up in the world. This is shameful. And even if that is bad enough, there is something which is even worse. The one what God forbids. If God forbids something, it is not because he is a dictator, but because he doesn't want you to harm yourself and eventually die. She says here, Ellen White, and that is in the 1900s, when the first feminist wave occurred, when the women wanted to vote, they wanted their power. Those who feel called out to join the movement of women's rights and the so-called dress reform might as well sever all connection with the third angel's message. Okay. Now, just a quick thing here. She's talking about the women's rights. So that's exactly what happened back in her time. You know, the women wanted to be empowered and all that sort of thing, which in a sense I'm saying they had some good asks, but it went completely into the wrong sort of direction from there. She is talking about women's rights and dress reform because they were walking and going hand in hand together. Now, the dress reform was actually something that maybe some of our ministers here, maybe some of our sisters here know. She was talking about the reformed dress or the American costume. That was actually propagated by that lady by the name of Dr. Harriet Austin of Danceville, New York, about which Ellen White says that was basically resembling the men's attire very closely. It was combining a short skirt, which you can't see here because she's got the top, reaching about halfway from the hip to the knee, with a mannish-looking trousers, coat, and a vest. And she says that's an abomination. Don't even think about this. You're going to, sink if you start there. So this is, and actually, by saying that, I've got to tell you that I've seen quite a few sisters wearing the so-called ladies' pants. That's what they call them, ladies' pants, ladies' trousers. And it started from there. And when I say sister, I'm saying sisters in the Reform movement. What I'm straight away thinking is, when I see a woman looking like a man, even if she thinks she's wearing a female attire, this is actually something that tells me this is a person who wears the pants in the house. Because the brother or the husband doesn't have the guts to say to his wife, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? But that's a different story. I'm not going to talk about that now. So what she's saying, what I would like to sort of head on to, is they are to sever their connection with the third angel's message. The third angel's message is called the truth for this time. The truth for this time. Everybody who does not accept the truth for this time according to the spirit of prophecy is called an unbeliever. Now, when you study the spirit of prophecy in the Bible, go deeper. Don't just read the surface. And what is the destiny of those who are unbelieving? According to Revelation chapter 21, it's the second death. Is it serious? It's deadly serious. And my time is up. And I've got a lot more, and I see Csaba looking at me with a very worrying look. What I'm going to do, I'm going to stop up to here. I'm going to stop up to here because I know we're all hungry. I've got a long way to go, and we'll finish next time, God willing. May the Lord bless us, and we'll see how the thing progresses once the time God gives me another time. Amen.